What up, friends? I just wanted to start off this video by saying this was my personal experience. That's not to say everyone is going to have the same experience or currently has the same experience at my last place of employment. You know, it has to deal with a lot of stuff. I will say I've tried to make this as detailed as possible, but there's probably some detail missing because I could honestly speak about this for hours and hours and hours. So if you want any more info on this, please let me know. And without further ado, sit back and enjoy Car Sessions number 2. What up, friends? Welcome to another Car Sessions. Hope you're all doing well. I'm alright. Actually, I'm not really alright. Really angry. Been angry for the last couple days. And like I said in my last video, it's just gonna take some time. So someone sent to me the careers page from my last job and thought it would be funny. And no, it really just upset me because looking at the company's values when it comes to their employees, a lot of the things that were written there weren't things that they followed with me. That was upsetting. It made me angry because it's like, if those are the core values that they follow, why did they follow them? Why didn't they reflect back on them? Why didn't they look at the thing that we carried around, our lanyards and our IDs that showed our values? Real angry. And it sucks. Talked to my dad on the phone last night, and he just keeps telling me, you know, it's in the past, just let it go. It's not that easy to just let it go for me. Because it really just screwed me over. And it doesn't affect them any, and I get to sit here and brood about it. One of the many injustices of the world that I get screwed over, and they continue to have a job and live their lives the way they've continued to live them because their inability to do what was right rather than what was easier. And sucks. It really sucks. And so, I just want to get it out there, tell the story of what the hell happened. I've been beating around the bush a lot, trying not to give a lot of detail, but I decided, let's just get into the detail, and you decide if I was wrong, or if they were wrong. Either way, I think we all have our own opinions of things. It's all about different perspectives, which is fine, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So, let's start back in 2016. I'm going to try and keep this short. But in 2016, I was tasked with a project for Active Directory migrations. And that was between two companies, a company we bought and our own company. The idea was to merge these directories, which would be a central location for their users, central domain for them to log into, and just be easier in the long run supporting two companies under one umbrella instead of trying to support two separate umbrellas. So starting on this project, obviously you start with your planning, go into discovery, do your testing, and fix anything you have to fix after testing before moving into your execution phase. Planning went fine, because obviously we figured out what we wanted to do and what needed to be done. Went into testing, and ran into some delays through things we found, but that's understandable when it comes to testing, because you don't know what you're going to run into with testing. It took a little while, but we finally got out of testing and started moving into the execution phase, started rolling out this project. The project team consisted of me, another employee from our company, two people from the other company to get this done. Obviously, we had sponsors and senior management that would guide and help out where needed. So one thing I ran into this project consistently was one of the members on the other side was essentially being a roadblock and delaying as much as possible with this project. He felt we were taking away control, they were going to lose control. He felt like the things that we were trying to do didn't make sense and weren't going to work unwilling to actually just test and try them, just had his opinion on it, and that was apparently enough to become a roadblock for everything that we tried to do. So, the biggest thing is when you run into a roadblock, obviously you want to work through those and figure out compromises. And this is how the project started off, was trying to find compromises with this person. Thankfully, we did find compromises, which was good, felt good. Could move on with the project and do what needed to be done. Unfortunately, even though we found compromises in our update meetings and our working sessions, when we updated the sponsors, this individual, during our first update to our sponsors, decided to voice his opinion on something that we thought we had come to agreement with, which essentially was username changes. And yes, it's kind of a big deal to change your username in a company, because your username is tied to so many different applications. And so he's very hesitant about changing those names. We understood why he's hesitant, but at the same time, if we're trying to fix everything and get to a standard, it was the right direction to go. He agreed, and we talked about what do we need to do to either fix usernames across the board, make sure that they continue to work after we've migrated them, and do all the steps necessary to make this project as seamless as possible for the end user. So, during this meeting, we got to that point where we were discussing this, and the individual decided to raise his voice about it. He said, "I don't know why we're doing this. You guys keep trying to shove this name change down our throats. We never really agreed to it, and it's not going to work, and it's not what we want to do. And yeah, I don't know why we're doing it." And this kind of blindsided me and the other person from our company. It's like, you guys didn't disagree to this yesterday in the meeting we had. We came to a compromise on what we were going to do and attempt and test to make sure you were happy with it. And he brought that in. So, management said, we'll talk about this. We finished doing our update meeting. We sat down with management and talked through what exactly happened. And we told them this was kind of a blindsided move. We came to an agreement on what we were going to do and what we were going to try and see. And yeah, so they said they would go back and talk to him, figure out what was going on. And all we really got out of that was an apology from him, saying that that was not the time and place to make his remarks, essentially. And it didn't really deter him from becoming a roadblock for the rest of the project. It pretty much enabled him to continue to be a roadblock during the project. And so every turn we made to this project, for the year of 2016, this person had some objection or something that he did not like and did not want to do, and would continually just slow the project down, which became increasingly frustrating for me. And I had to deal with this for the majority of 2016. And mind you, I'd been bringing up each roadblock to the management team to figure out what can we do to resolve this. Because we were pretty much no longer at a point where we could find compromise. We were just doing whatever this one individual wanted to do. He essentially got his way. And out of that whole thing of me snapping at him over email, it wasn't that he was being a roadblock. It wasn't that he wasn't bringing these concerns up in our update meeting. It wasn't that he decided to make these decisions on his own and not bring it up to the project team. It was that I was being a non-team player and a little more aggressive than I should be in regards to this project. And that kind of sucks, because it's like, okay, the one time I snap at this guy, after every time he's caused problems for this project, I'm at fault, and he just gets a pat on the back like, it's cool, we'll take care of the issue. A lot of times they came to me and they're like, we are talking to them, we are doing things to try and alleviate this, but what it turned into was I didn't see any results from them talking to those other guys on the other side. I didn't hear any of the results or what they discussed. And when I brought those up, like, what are we actually doing? What it turned into was, this is pretty much out of your control. And just try and control the things that you have control of. And so I asked, what exactly do I have control of in regards to this project? The response I got from management was, well, you can control your emotions, so work on controlling that. It's pretty much a big middle finger to you, saying just keep your mouth shut because we're not going to get anywhere with this, and just keep doing what needs to be done, even though you can't do what needs to be done because there's this giant roadblock in the way. So finally, after, I want to say, a year, maybe a little over a year, we find out that we're no longer doing the migration or Active Directory merger because we are selling off said company that we had purchased and started trying to merge. And that felt like a giant waste to me. It felt like at some point in 2016 someone could have just put a stop to the project and said, hey, we don't need to focus on this anymore. Just go ahead and put it on hold. We'll give you more details later. And it's all about this, well, we figured, you guys would start asking questions and blah, 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 and you just have this air of secrecy that doesn't really help anybody in the long run. I got sat down, and I was really frustrated with all the things going on at the time. And I told them I was really unhappy, because that was my entire 2016. It felt like a waste. It felt like we essentially did everything for nothing. And what was the point of that whole thing? It felt really bad. And the only thing I really got was, it was a lot of work. It doesn't seem like it right now, but we really appreciate everything you did. And that was the same line used the day I was told to go home. And let's fast forward to that. So that was one giant frustrator for me, and just building on and on and on, making me more angry, making me more depressed as life went on during that time. Hated going to work, dreaded it. It's just miserable, completely miserable. And so, we move on to what actually got me fired. So, we had a team that was notorious for just buying things, bringing it in, and expecting IT to just get it to work within our infrastructure. Which isn't always the case. It's not always possible to just do that. So, they finally brought something in after they were told by the vendor and by the people that were involved in the conversation, which was not my team, mind you, just other infrastructure people. That dude just ran across the street right in front of me. Anyway, sorry. Not the team that was responsible for where they wanted to put this virtual appliance, I will say. But thankfully, there was a senior architect in there who said, hey, mind you, if you go this route, we don't have VMware. We use Hyper-V, and that's what we prefer you to use. And the vendor told them, well, we don't certify on Hyper-V, and we haven't certified on Hyper-V. But that's not to say it doesn't work on Hyper-V, which is pretty much the sales rep's way of saying, hey, just buy my product even if it doesn't work. So they bought it. They brought it in. Dropped it on our doorstep. I'm busy with just 4 or 5 different projects. I get an email that says, hey, can you look at this and try and get it to work, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, this isn't anything to do with Hyper-V, and I don't have the time to look at this right now. Can it wait? Essentially, they said, no, it can't wait, it needs to get done as soon as possible. So I brought that to my team lead, and I was like, hey, I'm not doing anything with this, like, at all. Because I don't have the time to work on this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try and figure out how to convert a VMware appliance to a Hyper-V appliance. And so we pushed back saying, hey, can you send this to your vendor and have your vendor convert this to Hyper-V? A few weeks go by. They sent an email back asking where this is at, and we said, hey, we asked you guys to send this to your vendor and see if they can convert it. So they did that. Their vendor got back to them, and their vendor said, we don't have Hyper-V as a resource in our environment. We don't know or can't do this. But based on these Microsoft articles, this is how you can change VMware to Hyper-V. And it's like, we don't have in our environment. Why are we doing your work to convert your application, your appliance, to Hyper-V? That's another business trick for you, is I'm a vendor, I'm selling you something you can't use, but I'm going to get you to figure it out, make it work in your environment, and then I'm going to ask you for it. That way I can resell it to everyone else in your same situation. That's frustrating, because we paid for it, it doesn't work, but we have to fix it. The vendor doesn't have to fix it, and then the vendor reaps from our work. So I said, no, that's not how we're going to do this. And essentially, what it came down to was I was supposed to leave early on Friday, because I had worked late Tuesday and Wednesday, and I was getting ready to go on vacation. And essentially, my team lead sends me this email and says, hey, we're going to need you to work on this and figure it out, and they want it as soon as possible. And I told him, no, I'm not going to work on this. Like, this is absolute bullshit. Like, you know what? So-and-so can go fuck themselves, take this application, shove it up their ass, and just fuck themselves with it, because this is bullshit. I'm getting sick and tired of having to do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want, and whenever we ask for their help, they don't ever have time for us to help. And it's extremely frustrating to be in that situation. Like, I'm not trying to get you to do work just for the sake of you doing work. I'm trying to get you to do work that'll help you in the long run, because I'm trying to upgrade the environment, but you're unwilling to do that. I told him I was leaving, and I left work, and instead of just leaving work and ignoring the dumb stuff that I had to deal with, for the next 8 hours, I sat there trying to figure out, at home, how the hell to convert this thing, reading the documents. And it wasn't just a VMware machine, it was a VMware appliance, so not all the same rules applied to it, and it didn't convert the way Microsoft was recommending. So I had a hard time with this, and I spent, again, 8 hours working on this. And I found very little appreciation in all the work that I did in 2016, all the after-hour stuff I did, all the 50 to 60 hours I put in for that company, and have to deal with this crap. So finally, I sent an email to them saying, hey, this is what I've done today. This is all the crap that I can't figure out. It's erroring out. It continues to error out here. These are the articles that say this is how you fix that error you're getting, but those aren't working either. If you want to look at it while I am gone, feel free to do so, because I am going on vacation and I'm not going to worry about this for a week. I got an email back, essentially saying, hey, you know, I don't really appreciate you not telling me you're going home, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know if you're working, not working on it, yada, yada, yada. I replied back, I told you I was going home, you know, and I've been working on this, as this email proves. And also, you know what, who is this person's manager? Because I don't really appreciate them shoving work in my face when I don't have time to really work on their project outside of my other projects. But I am forced to do so, because it's quote-unquote business critical, even though it's a brand new thing that we're bringing into the environment. Again, frustrating as hell. So I go on vacation, come back, I sit down, I'm in the office for about 30 minutes, I'm trying to catch up on email, I get pulled into one of the senior manager's office. He says, hey, so apparently there was an incident that occurred Friday before you left. I'm like, yep. He's like, these things were said. Like, yep. And he's like, I'd like to hear your side of it. And I told him, I was like, you know, I feel like we keep having to do things that just you guys don't put a stop to, don't put your foot down to. You just don't stand up for what we need to do. And they essentially told me, you know, that they heard my side of the story, and I told them I wasn't happy. I was extremely unhappy. I even told them, I was like, sure, I'm looking for another job because I'm so unhappy here. So they said, take the rest of the day off, and we'll let you know if you want to come, if we want you to be back tomorrow. So, went home, pretty much, well, before I left, I asked, I was like, do you want me to be here tomorrow? And the response was, we'll figure that out. Which essentially told me, no, they didn't want me to be there. Because I wasn't being a quote-unquote team player to them, which being a team player to them was essentially just keeping your goddamn mouth shut and doing whatever the hell you're told to do, even though that wasn't really in the guidelines. Even though in the company guidelines it says we value our employees' voice and input on every matter, which obviously they did not. They gave zero fucks about what I had to say about what was going on, because it made them look bad. Because they couldn't stand up and say, no, this doesn't work in our environment. Can we find a different product that actually works in our environment? Or can you please push back on the vendor to get this to work in our environment? You wanna know what the sad part about the story is? A week after I was let go, or 2 weeks after I was let go, I found out that the vendor finally ended up doing the conversion and sending it to them. The damn thing that I had asked for from the beginning that would have prevented all of this, the vendor did. Why couldn't they have done that when we first asked them? Because in reality, they didn't care. And when I say they, I mean the managers didn't care. They didn't care about letting me go. They didn't care about what I had problems with. They didn't care about anything that was going wrong with our teams or the other teams. They just wanted me to shut up and go away. That's the gist of the story. I'm sure I've missed some details. And if you're curious about those, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to talk more about it. But I'll say I am doing much better. I am less stressed out. I do like my new job, and I like the team that I work with, because they're the people that do ask the questions, like, does this make sense? Or if it doesn't make sense, is there a different way that we can look at it? I just get so angry that I was put in that situation. Because here's the other thing, another point of being injustices of the world, where it's like, in my mind, I did nothing wrong. In their minds, they did nothing wrong, and they did the right thing by letting me go. In fact, again, when I was let go, the thing they said was, it may not seem like it now, but we really appreciate everything you've done. Which is total BS. Because if they did appreciate everything I had done, they'd probably take that into account before deciding to let me go. Maybe, if they appreciated everything I had done, they would account and try and figure out, how do we make this situation better for not just Ben, but for everybody else as well. They don't. They always take the easy way out. Like I said, I'm doing better, other than being really angry these last couple days about the whole situation. I like my job, I like the people I work with, and I'm on the road to being happier, like I said in my last car sessions. So, again, part of the injustices is the fact that they continue to get their jobs, continue to do mediocre or average amount of work, continue to get paid, continue to get the respect that people give them for whatever reason, where I feel like they've done wrong. Where people who continue to do horrible things or bad things in their life continue to be rewarded normally, while people who go above and beyond continue to just get screwed over. At least that's how I feel about it. I'm gonna stop there before I go any crazier, and I'm just gonna pop some music and enjoy the rest of my drive home. So, I know this was kind of an angry car sessions. Hopefully this will be the last angry car sessions and we can do more fun stuff and talk about more fun things. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. So, if you've enjoyed this, or even did not enjoy this, please consider subscribing to my channel so that I can try to someday avoid office politics. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I really appreciate all the support so far. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.